Before we begin with the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. It'll really help me out and encourage me to make more content similar to this one. Now without further ado, let's dive into the video. The Robocop and Terminator franchises have had an interesting history in the video game world. Going back to the games on the NES, these series of games didn't start off in the best manner, but as technology progressed, the games do improve even if not delivering 10 out of 10 games. If you look at the history of these franchises in video games, it gives you a shudder like Sideshow Bob. Let's start with Robocop. It's a side-scrolling punch-em game with little gunplay. When I pick up a Robocop game, I have a short list of expectations, and one of them is his Auto 9 gun. You need to get this gun correct and have gunplay elements to make you feel like you're the half-man, half-machine. I'll be honest, I never completed this game. Between the beat-em-up segments and the constant wielding and putting away of the gun, I don't remember making it beyond the first 2 or 3 levels. So that was my history with Robocop games for the time being. My retro game memories of Terminator are similar, as back in the 90s I only played Terminator 2 on NES and later played the SNES arcade shooter. With Terminator 2 on NES, again I wasn't impressed because I didn't make it very far. Until I got my hands on the Game Genie, I never completed the game. So on the NES, Robocop and Terminator started off very rough until we progressed into the 16-bit era of games. With Robocop vs. Terminator, I never learned this until later, but this was a comic series before it was adapted into video games. But what a story it had. As a kid, hearing that my 2 favorite action series were being blended together into a game made me ecstatic. Who will I play as, Robocop or the Terminator? Upon booting up the game in the SNES version, which I played first, I was impressed with how good Robocop looked at the time. He had the gun, he had the look of my favorite law enforcement officer. I didn't mind how he moved until it came time for some of the platforming and battle sequences. And that's where some of my frustrations began to boil over, along with the respawning enemies. I enjoyed the gameplay environment and level designs in this version of the game, but I began to dislike the combat and platforming in later levels. Also, since Skynet has never been depicted on screen before, I was confused when it came time to fight the big bad of the Terminator series. Obviously you shoot his eye, but Skynet in this story is just an AI that sends out the marching orders to the Terminators. It has never had a physical form. Overall, this was a good game, but with its flaws, it's just the visual presentation and comic book style cutscenes that made this game stand out for me at the time. Now enter the Sega Genesis version of the game. This one was way more interesting. It had a visual style akin to the Robocop movies, which was a hyper-violent bloodbath that left enemies in a pile of gooey, bloody goodness. This game had a fight with ED-209, which I was expecting, but when I encountered Kane, I couldn't believe my eyes, seeing this crazy monstrous machine against my small Robocop frame. The game had all of his aesthetics correct between body shape and even having his searchlights that he used in a scene that scared me as a kid. Again, I enjoyed this game as it got a lot correct as far as looks, gameplay, and the levels of violence that really made me feel like I was playing a Robocop game. As console generations progressed, I was hoping to see either a better Robocop game or a better Terminator game, even if it was just a sequel to this classic game, Robocop vs. Terminator. While I played a couple of the Terminator games on PlayStation 2, I don't remember much of them. I did play Terminator Rise of the Machines, and I enjoyed it to a degree, as well as Terminator Redemption. Maybe I'll play these on a future stream to refresh my memory. But come 2019, I'd encountered Terminator Resistance by Nacon and Taeon. While the character models and dialogue were rough around the edges, I did enjoy the environments and combat, but the scrounging around for supplies, not so much. I'm currently replaying the game if you want to check it out on the icon here. Now this would be my last interaction with a Terminator or Robocop game until 2023, when Robocop Rogue City was released. It was a good game and nailed the environment, look, and feel of the movies down very well. Again, where it struggled was character models and dialogue, similar to Terminator Resistance. What I'd like to see Taeon or anybody do is a remake of Robocop vs. Terminator for today's gamers. There's a wealth of material from the comic books to use for a storyline. Taeon already has the license for the Terminator and Robocop, as well as character models, so I feel the time is right now to pull the trigger on a Robocop vs. Terminator remake, while Robocop is fresh in the public's mind. If you've watched my other videos, you know I'm lukewarm on multiplayer games, as it mostly depends on how it's done. I think Taeon should scrap their Terminator multiplayer game and make a Robocop vs. Terminator remake to capitalize on the popularity of Rogue City. If they even felt up to it, they could even support Rogue City with DLC and give us a taste of what a Robocop Robocop vs. Terminator game with them would look like. Given how well they've nailed the worlds of both franchises, if they allow this game to be in the oven for the right amount of time and give it the polish it deserves, Teon could build a Robocop vs. Terminator game universe where one series references one another, and then when the time is right, pull the trigger and give us a showdown of a lifetime with these two sci-fi organisms battling out in the future with each other and Skynet. Now that I would gladly invest in with no hesitation.
Shut up and take my money!
So what do you think? Should Teon scrap the multiplayer Terminator game and build a Robocop vs. Terminator universe? What do you think of either Terminator Resistance or Robocop Rogue City? Would you play the game I suggested here or pick up the classics on Sega or SNES? Until next time, my Koopalings, this is Grim Koopa signing off. If you liked what you just watched, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll help the channel grow and encourage me to make more content just like this.